Okay, we're live, but we're going to let it breathe, baby, just for a moment, just for a second. Make sure we got the whole family under this roof. All right, and we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. First of all, Zack, Happy New Year.
Happy New
And
Year.
Happy New Year to everybody in the chat, everybody
Yes,
within
sir.
the sound of my voice. 2025, I can tell you, I can feel it right now. It's going to be a good year. So hope you had a good, conclusion to the holiday season, Zack. And we got some Pro Bowl stuff to talk about tonight, plus a head-to-head.
Yes, sir. Happy New Year to you and yours and Scott as well. Everyone in the chat. I hope you were safe and responsible, but also had a lot of fun. I know I did, but Chad, I can't get this Week 18 matchup off my mind. It's we've been dealing with a lot of teases the last couple of weeks, and we're hoping to actually close the deal on Sunday. So we're gonna look forward to that tonight.
No doubt about it. Let's get to first and foremost the main news of the day, which is, hey, it's award time. Not only did we get some resolution on a few of the individual team honors, like the Ed Block Courage Award, the Demarius Thomas Team MVP, the Darrent Williams Good Guy Award. We'll talk about that stuff. But we got some, Zack, resolution on Broncos Pro Bowlers. And as we wrote about earlier this week, the Broncos had, 14 players finish in the top 10 in the fan voting. All right. Well, cut to, you got to also include the coaches. You also got to include the players. And in the final analysis, 3 players make the Pro Bowl that are Denver Broncos: Patrick Surtain, Marvin Mims Jr., back-to-back years as a returner Pro Bowler, and for the first time, really cool to see, Nick Bonito, who garnered the most fan votes for what it's worth at outside linebacker, as did Patrick Surtain at his position. So we can get into the snubs, Zack. We can talk about some of the alternates and what the possibilities are there. But first things first, your gut reaction to the 3 guys named.
PS2 at this point, Chad, he's becoming like a no-brainer, a legacy pick. He'll get in soon just on name alone, but he's had a tremendous season, up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's right now, last I checked, the betting favorite to win DPOY, so we'll see what happens with that. But tremendous player, tremendous year as always. Benito, the first Broncos player, defender to notch 10-plus sacks since 2018 when Bradley Chubb and Von Miller did it. He had those 2 big pick sixes or defensive touchdowns to change the course of the Broncos season pretty much. Very deserving, very happy for him. Big breakout season. Neither of us saw coming, or most in Broncos country didn't either. And Mims, like you mentioned, 2 years in a row, his special teams ability is great. It's evident. He leads the league in punt return yards, but his development as a receiver has been the most optimistic and encouraging to me. And he had those 2 big touchdowns last week. So they all deserve to get in. I'm happy for all of them.
And frankly, dude, I think that his receiving impact the last few weeks in particular are one of the reasons why he got a Pro Bowl as a returner. It kept him in the fore of the kind of collective focus, thought, zeitgeist of the coaches and the players.
Good
Papa
point.
Bear, thank you for the early super chat, brother, before we went live. Almost an hour before we went live. Thank you, pal. He says, Happy New Year, Broncos country. Hashtag, God bless the USA, 10-7. Let's go, Bo. MHH for life. Buckham ×3. Denver Broncos for life. And yes, we've got some big-time thoughts and prayers for the city of New Orleans. And there's certain buzzwords I'm not going to use on this stream because I don't want it to get throttled, but we'll just say the attack that took place there, and just brutal. So we need that hashtag GB the USA, David. So thank you, my friend. Really, really appreciate you.
Yeah, happy New Year to you, David. Hope it was a good one, and hope you're looking forward to the Broncos going 10-7 and meeting your prediction by beating the Chiefs on Sunday.
So Nick Bonito becomes the first Broncos outside linebacker since Bradley Chubb in 2020 to garner a Pro Bowl nod. And if you recall, when Bradley Chubb got that, he was at 7.5 sacks, got named to the Pro Bowl, wept for joy and just overwhelmed by, I guess, the accomplishment, and then promptly shut it down for the season. The Broncos didn't play him for the final 2 games. In this case, you've got, as you mentioned, the first Broncos anybody to get double-digit sacks since 2018, because even Chubb in his 1 Pro Bowl year as a Bronco anyway, did not hit double digits. So I'm really stoked for Nick Bonito, what that means for him. I'm really stoked for the little legend that Marvin Mims is beginning to build for himself around the league, and kind of the harbingers, Zach, or some of the omens that could portend for his future as a playmaker, period, because that seems to be growing in this offense.
It's a really good point you made about putting him more on the map with that game he had against the Bengals. He had that long touchdown catch. He had that miracle touchdown catch. He's becoming an explosive receiver when used properly. So, again, I'm very happy for Marvin. And Nick Bonito is a good look for him. Also a great look for George Paton. People, including us, kind of questioned that pick, Chad. And George Paton knew when he drafted him. He goes, Nick Bonito at 60, what was it, 64, whatever. He was surprised he lasted that long. And I credit the Broncos coaching staff and their developmental process for seeing what they had in Bonito.
The Duchess with a very, very, very generous super chat. Love you, Michaela. Happy New Year to you. Hope it was a good holiday season, even if it sounds perhaps exhausted, hurting. Hi, fellas. She says, pretty exhausted and hurting today. I think Zack Allen should have made it. Big snub. Love you all so much. Hey, hopefully it's just, the after effects of a whirlwind holiday, Merry Christmas, New Year, all that stuff. So thoughts and prayers with you. Hopefully you get feeling better and back on your feet soon. But thank you, Michaela. And yes, Zack Allen was utterly snubbed. And I'm starting to wonder, Zach, how much Pro Football Focus actually factors into these Pro Bowl votes, because I know for fans, you get the PFF stuff, it raises a player's profile media-wise if they have good grades, right? Like, it gets blogs talking about them, it gets the fans reading about them besides just watching them on game day. But now I'm starting to wonder, because Zach, that is the only reason possible that he would get snubbed, because as we have long lamented all season long, we complained about it, we've dismissed it. PFF is like the only entity under the sun on God's green earth that has not glazed Zack Allen for the phenomenal season that he has had. We can get into some of the stuff Eric wrote about that lay out the metrics of how badly he was snubbed relative to the guys who got in. But Zach, there's no doubt Allen was snubbed, and so was Quinn Miners, almost equally as badly.
A couple things about Zack Allen. Number one, the consolation here is that All-Pro, which hopefully he'll get either second team or first string, is more valuable, I think, to a player than Pro Bowl, which is a popularity contest. He doesn't have that name recognition. He's not a Chris Jones. He's not even a Trey Hendrickson. And, it's tough when he's a fourth alternate, Zack Allen, and the defensive ends that got in were Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and Max Crosby. Now, those are all really good players. You can argue whether their impact was as much on a playoff contender as Zack Allen, but another year, just like Nick Bonito, Chad, he needed a couple years to form that name recognition. No one really outside of Denver and Arizona, where Allen came from, knows who Zack Allen is. Now they will, but we all know what he's capable of. We all seen what he's done, and hopefully, like I said, he'll get that All-Pro nod at the end of the year.
Yeah, but he was being analyzed through the prism of a defensive tackle, and the guys that got in, like him being, I can't remember where he finished in the top 10 amongst defensive tackles, but he didn't qualify as a defensive end in the fan voting. He qualified as a tackle, and let's face it, in this scheme, that's what he is. And even if the Broncos ran a 4-3, he'd be playing inside. He'd be playing one of the defensive tackle positions. I can get into it, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that Eric uncovered relative to Allen snubbing, but I don't want to keep our boy Naj waiting, because he's a legend and he's part of the family. And Happy New Year to you, big dog. Says, hey, brothers, hope the new year brings all happiness, health, and prosperity. Amen. Need a win, not only for Broncos country or the playoffs, but because it's the hated Chiefs. Those clowns have no respect for us. Can't lose this. And dude, they're going to come at us, dude. They're not just going to, there's some, as I say that, Zach, I'm reminded of some of the conspiracy theories. The Chiefs don't want to see Joe Burrow and the Bengals in the playoffs, so they're going to take their foot off the gas. I don't believe that for a second, for what it's worth. I'm just mentioning it because I know someone in the chat or someone listening, driving in their car, is going to think that. This is about AFC West. It's about rivalry. It's about the Chiefs, Zach, having the opportunity to stiff arm the Broncos straight up out of their first playoff berth since 2015.
Yeah, I want to just put a bow on the Zack Allen thing really quickly. If you look up defensive tackle, and you're right, Chad, maybe that's a different classification. Cam Hayward from the Steelers made it. Chris Jones, no-brainer, tremendous player. And Nnamdi Madubuike from Baltimore made it.
Yeah.
You could maybe argue the last one there, but again, he's playing on a better team, a more recognizable team. And before he changed his name, I think he had more name recognition. I think it was Justin Madubuike, right? Before he went to Nnamdi. So it is what it is. Again, we all know what Allen's capable of. They called him a mini JJ Watt coming out of Arizona, and he's playing like that. About what Naj is saying here, and thank you so much, Naj, as always, it's going to be tough because they're going with the mentality of winning. They're not going to roll over Kansas City. They don't want the Broncos in the playoffs. They're still the hated rival. But when you look at it, it's still a game that means nothing to them and a game that means everything to Denver. And if they can't win this one, well, they don't deserve to make the playoffs anyway, and they won't. The one thing I think there is respect mutually, I wrote about it earlier, Carson Wentz, who's starting for the Chiefs this week for Patrick Mahomes. The Broncos were interested. Sean Payton said that he had discussions with his agents over the offseason. Obviously, he didn't sign them, but Wentz complimented the Broncos. Payton complimented Wentz. So at least there's that level of gamesmanship going on, Chad.
And, dude, I still remember how Carson Wentz beat the Broncos. Granted, that was almost like a different millennium, it feels like at this point. That we're talking the Brock Osweiler circa 2017 Broncos, but still. Eric Flynn, thank you for the stars, big dog. Really appreciate your support night in and night out on Facebook. And, guys, we got a lot more to get to, but first, this week, the Broncos are not entering the season finale as underdogs, and you want to make sure you are not an underdog this final week 18 of the NFL season. Go with Underdog Fantasy. Download the app because it is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans, plus your football priest, plus Scott, already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players, compete against other players simply by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 231.5 passing yards on Sunday? Will Nix have higher or lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns? Every dog deserves a second chance. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
It adds so much more fun and intrigue to the football week. Download the Underdog app today. Use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Okay, I want to do a little bit of scratch and sniff on this Allen subject because this was a very good article by Eric Trickle up here at the top, metrics revealing the 2 egregious Broncos Pro Bowl snubs. And we can talk about Miners because he's got a huge case as well. But here's the one thing that separates Allen specifically from most of these defensive tackle options, and especially Madubuike. And that is, I'm just going to quote a few sections here from Eric. Quote, the best defensive lineman in the NFL did not make the Pro Bowl this year. 8 players, okay, have at least 750 snaps on the D-line. Only one of them with over 830 snaps, and that's Allen, who has 940, 110 more snaps than the next highest. In other words, right here, Allen is kept on the field, and consistency makes an impact on the game throughout. PFF has slammed Allen questionably all season with poor grades, even when he has made significant impact on defense. But let's examine the players selected instead of Allen. Chris Jones of the Chiefs, Hayward, as you mentioned, Zach Namdi of the Ravens. Hayward didn't play more than 750 snaps. He had 731. So to include him, you got to drop the threshold to 700. That's 11 defensive linemen have qualified with at least 700 defensive snaps. All right. Allen ranks 9th in overall defensive grade. This is from PFF. Hayward and Jones are first, second. Madubuike is 8th. Run defense. You can go through all these different metrics, okay? Allen, though, his defensive grade overall with relative to the run, I'm going to distill this a little bit for you guys, basically comes down to he never leaves the field. Where these guys come in, they play on first and second down, they leave. With the exception of like Chris Jones, Cameron Hayward, they don't. Hayward in particular does not play every pass rushing snap. Allen does. He's playing all the downs, okay? But then when you get to the pass rush, all right, Allen has 65 total pressures. Jones has 61. Madubuike 45. Hayward has 40. The pressure rates, you can look at it all. And the bottom line is Allen, by virtue of the utility he offers the Broncos, Zach, and how much he stays on the field, is ultimately why his grade has kind of lingered mid sort of with PFF. And I think that has played a role in why he got snubbed this year.
You mentioned Marvin Mims and getting more recognition because of the Bengals game. I don't know how it didn't work both ways for Zack Allen, who had 3.5 sacks. You think people would have recognized, but this is the problem I have with the fan voting being involved. Chiefs fans and Steelers fans, and it takes an element away from the players that are deserving. All I could really say is, Chad, it's still a popularity contest. If it was up to me, I would take Zack Allen over at least Madubuike, but it's not how it shook out. All pro is what we're going for.
Max Rio, what's up, dude? Up in Canada. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Happy New Year, guys. Gotta win Sunday. Go Broncos. Indeed. Last I checked, the Broncos were 8-point favorites. That might shift a little bit, but only in Denver's favor. So this is one of those games. It's like there's so much pressure. It almost makes me uncomfortable. Not pressure like, oh, will they win it or won't they? But Chiefs, Zach, playing their backups like that, and for the Broncos, it's all the chips on the table that if you fail to win that game, you'll struggle to ever live that down for Broncos fans. But I liked what Bo Nix said about it yesterday, and he espoused like a very, very mature, I'll say, take. And he basically said, here's what he said, quote, I think this lifestyle, this situation, there are some quarterbacks who just kind of live with pressure. That's just kind of second nature at this point. This is the part I like. I believe pressure is a privilege. And I was taught that a long time ago. Let's not forget, his father was a high-profile college quarterback and a coach at high school. There's no pressure, Bo goes on, without opportunity. Right now, that means we have a great opportunity to go do something special, close quote. So in other words, Zach, even though the pressure is high, that corresponds to something tasty, right? Corresponds to a wonderful opportunity. Can you go seize it?
What brings me comfort is that when the Broncos played Kansas City earlier in the year, that was full strength. Bo outplayed Mahomes, and the Broncos should have won that game. I know should have doesn't count, but they really deserve to win that. And you know what? Conversely, like you said, Chad, if they don't win this and they don't get in the playoffs and they collapse at home, the playoffs on the line for the third week against Kansas City's backups, it's been a bad 10 years. That would be the lowest point in that 10 years and undo all of the goodwill from Sean Payton and Bo Nix and everything they built up this season. It wouldn't matter if you collapse like that. So fingers crossed, we'd never cross that bridge on Sunday.
Indeed. Chris Chance is jumping in. What's up, bro? Thank you for the super. Great to see you. He says, people are saying we might lose to the Chiefs backups, like the words of Emperor Palpatine. Good. Let the hate flow through you. Indeed. Denver Broncos for life. # Bo Vader. Yeah, we went from the Darth hoodie, that was Belichick all those years. He's taken his talents to North Carolina in college football. God bless you. But now that Sith-like villain has become Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, the fan in me, Zach, couldn't help but relish a little bit that Mahomes did not get a Pro Bowl nod this year. I don't know. Is that being a little too petty?
No, I mean, Bo Nix got more Pro Bowl fan votes than Patrick Mahomes did. And listen, let's call a spade here. Mahomes is a great quarterback. He'd be a Hall of Famer if he retired tomorrow. But what he's been this season, and pretty much in the post-Tyreek Hill era, is a game manager. He leans on the running game. He leans on their defense. He makes just enough plays with his legs or with his arm. And he's guiding a 15-win team or whatever they are, Chad, but he's not been that explosive player like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, like a Joe Burrow.
The one thing I'll give that dude, though, is he's still, and this is emblematic of why the Chiefs, one of the reasons anyway, they got the 15 wins, is when the chips are down and it's the critical situations, whether it's third down, you're extending drives, whether it's red zone, whether it's end of game sequences, that's when he delivers for the Chiefs. And there are only a couple of exceptions to that, Zach. One of them was against the Broncos. Broncos got him off the field, got Bo Nix the ball back. Blocked. What a bummer. But either way, yes, indeed, Chris. Let's let the hate flow through us. It's Chief Week. We got to shut him down. Jason Perrin, what's good, bro? Thank you for the super chat. Welcome. Appreciate you. He says, Happy New Year. Critical to get the win, not just for the playoffs, but we can't go into the offseason on a 3-game skid after all they've accomplished. Looking for them to play focused and loose. Well said. You know, at least the 2011 Broncos, Zach, had the benefit of, hey, we backed into the playoffs. We lost our final 3, but all of a sudden they look around. They're like, shoot, we got a home playoff game to prepare for. Oh, it's the defending AFC champion Steelers. Nobody gave the Broncos a chance coming off 3 straight losses to even hold a candle to the Steelers. We know how that shook out. However, the flip side to that coin is what happened to the 2008 Broncos, who were in position to clinch the playoffs, save Mike Shanahan's job. All they needed, much like the 2024 Broncos, was one win in the final 3. They couldn't get it done. They lost that one final game to Alex Smith's 49ers. We know what happened with Darren Williams that night. And what did that do, Zach? It ushered in a 4 or 5 year period of utter debauchery, chaos, even shame for the Broncos beyond just what happens on the field with the spying stuff from Josh McDaniels. So there are some cautionary tales therein. You got to win this, Broncos.
I'm a big believer in momentum, Jason. And first of all, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for your contribution. If there's no amount of Listerine to be able to wash the bad taste out of your mouth, if they don't make the playoffs, they lose 3 in a row, and they go into the offseason on that note. If that happens, God forbid, no one is going to be remembering what Bo Nix did. No one's going to be talking about Nick Bonito making his first Pro Bowl. The story of the Broncos season becomes they had 3 games, 3 weeks, win and you're in, and they couldn't do it, especially in the last one at home against the Chiefs backup. So again, I hope we don't cross this bridge at all. I hope the Broncos take care of business, but that would be a stench that lingers for quite a while if we were to cross that, Chad.
Indeed. Naj jumping in again. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Naj.
He says, I expect Andy Reid to throw all kinds of nonsense at us. Trick plays, fake punt, etc. Peyton and VJ need to be ready for anything and everything, in my opinion, and look to stomp them from the start. That was one of the things that was kind of, first of all, atypical of a normal NFL regular season game last week, but also kind of a little bit scary is that the Bengals, because they had nothing to lose, like they just played real loose. The head coach made a lot of the Broncos held them on a couple of those 4th downs in the red zone and stuff, and it wasn't all bad, but it kind of feels like you can't win for losing. That's a phrase that people in my family use sometimes, and it drives me nuts. Man, it's like you just can't win for losing. I'm like, what does that even mean? But just when you think you've won, in other words, Zach, and you stopped them on 3rd down, your defense is ready to go. Yeah. Oh, man, you're still out there on 4th down. You got to do it again. And again, the Broncos held up early and got those stops. But I think that continually having to go that extra mile early in the game, eventually it gassed them out, dude. Like that defense couldn't hold up at the end.
They can throw all they want at us, Naj, and thank you, by the way. It's still going to be the backups that are trying to pull off those trick plays and the fake punts and what have you. And let's be honest here. They're going to be starting Carson Wentz at quarterback. There's a reason why Carson Wentz is no longer a full-time starter in the NFL. He had to settle for a 1-year deal with Kansas City. Beyond that, I think they're looking to get their practice squad quarterback some reps in the game too. I forgot his name. Chris something. So they're going to try to win, but I don't know that they would go to those extremes. And if they're petty enough and vindictive enough to really open up the playbook and give away, Chad, the trick plays they might be saving for the postseason.
That's true. And that's a price they'll have to be willing to pay, which is why I don't think you'll see that, to be honest with you. I think you'll see the Chiefs play the Broncos straight up with whatever players they trot out there. And the Broncos are going to be hungry. I just don't think they let this one slip through their fingers. As I told you guys Monday night, I'm not going to wait. Neither Zach or I. We didn't give you official score predictions, but we kind of broke the suspense. Instead of saying, hey, wait till the Mile High Roundtable Friday, we told you we're both picking the Broncos to win this game. We were split last week. One of us picked Bengals, one of us picked Broncos. This week we're unified. Broncos are going to win this game. And I don't even want to contemplate them not, Zach, because I just think it's I don't want to come off, Zach, as sounding too confident and then you get knocked off your high horse, but it's just, I'm going to trust a little bit of what I've seen this year. I'm going to trust a little bit of what I've heard Sean Payton say about how this team is different. They're not going to let this slip through their fingers. They're going to squirt into the playoffs. And I don't want to hear that stuff about, they couldn't beat the Chargers or the Bengals with the proposition of win and you're in. They don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Thus, even if they make it, it's a joke. They shouldn't even be there. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Because you're the same fan that's going to lament in my chat how it's been 9 years since the Broncos made the playoffs. I don't want to hear that.
Right.
So let's just get them into the playoffs, get that, Zach, that 8-year monkey off our back, and then let the chips fall. If they're one and done, so be it. That's a massive step forward for Sean Payton and a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I'd rather, like a comment I see in the chat was, I'd rather get smacked by Buffalo. Eric Smith said this. I'm okay with getting smacked by Buffalo first round, just win Sunday and get in. That's how I feel, man.
Yeah.
You came this far, end the streak, you're at home. It's almost unfathomable, Chad, for the Broncos to lose this game, and we're not putting that juju out there.
No. And I mean, I hate to keep bringing up the Tebow season, but they get that miraculous gritty win in overtime over the Steelers. And I think even though there was that, I'll say minority of Broncos country that thought, oh, the Tebow magic is back. Could we go all the way? I think most fans were going, okay, we whistled past the graveyard on that one, and reality is about to come home to roost, and it did in a big, bad way. The New England Patriots absolutely Malachi crunched Tim Tebow and the Broncos. Belichick was laughing his withered cashews off on the sideline going, really, this is what you're going to do? You're going to come at me with Tebow on the quarterback trap and the dive, and nobody carries the ball here but me stuff? Like, okay, shut him down. Can't throw the ball. End of basically the season. And Zach, that did play a role in how the Broncos approached the offseason of 2012 and their aggressive pursuit of Peyton Manning, because there were a lot of people that were like, yo, there's no way Peyton Manning's going to go to small market Denver. He's trying to get out of he just got kicked out of small market Indy. Here's his chance, Mr. 4-time at the time NFL MVP, to go to one of the big markets and like just dominate. And Elway wanted it, though. He wanted to make a push. He had to believe he could get Peyton Manning because, Zach, he saw how bad the passing game was for the Broncos. The Patriots in particular really exposed just the basement floor nature of that. The rest is history.
It's important, I think, that you keep bringing up Tim Tebow in that era, at least the 2011 season. It's appropriate because what'd you hear that year? Oh, the Broncos won't finish with a winning record, or they won't get to the playoffs. They won't win a playoff game. They did all of that. Once you get in, anything can happen. And that's why football is the best sport in the world. So that's why, they might not be picking the Broncos to beat Buffalo in the first round, should and when they get in, but they're not unbeatable either. And the Broncos actually pulled that off at Buffalo last season. Just get in and go from there.
That's right. Absolutely. George, what's up, bro? Here we go, guys. This is our week, so hang on. Grab your big boy pants. Broncos for life, MHH for life. Indeed. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Thank you, George. You are the man. We also have Taylor Christensen. Hi, guys. I hope we win Sunday. But going into draft, I hope we take Warren from Penn State, the tight end. I hope we pass on Genty. I have Melvin Gordon vibes from him now. Hashtag MHH for
Ugh,
life. Zach, what do you think?
ugh. Haven't heard that name in quite a while. Yeah, he didn't look very well. I saw the memes about Ashton's playoff game, but he's still a very good player. And Tyler Warren, though, looked excellent, very much like a Sean Payton type of guy. I don't know if he's going to be in the range for where the Broncos are going to pick, but regardless, Taylor, we can all agree that the first round pick, second round pick, whatever, the whole focus of the offseason has to be about improving Bo Nix's supporting cast. He needs help all over the place. And it's funny you mentioned, Chad, all the top 10 votes the players got. I don't think any of those players were a receiver, a running back, or a tight end on Denver. It kind of shows where they need the most help.
Indeed. It's kind of cool, though, to see Cortland Sutton getting some Pro Bowl nods. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think we covered this. Here are your alternates, okay? 8 Broncos were selected as alternates for the All-Star event, including the aforementioned Zack Allen and Quinn Miners. Left tackle, Garrett Bowles. Fullback, Michael Burton. Long snapper, Mitchell Fraboni. How many of you knew that dude's name? Safety, Brandon Jones. Kicker, Will Lutz. And last but not least, quarterback, Bo Nix. Kind of cool. Taylor also says, hey, keep up the great work. You're awesome. Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
You're
Taylor.
awesome. And appreciate the consistent support from you, Taylor. Really does mean a lot to us, my friend. And I want to grab this real quick from Roy because I saw a lot of comments from him in the MHI chat last night. And I don't think we ever really got to any of them. So I kind of felt bad. But he says, listen, I would like to, let's see, he's talking about Broncos can beat anybody, but the play calling will have to change to do it. The very next thing he says is, I would like to, but with 80 million in dead cap deficit, it might be difficult. Well, guess what, Roy? Next year, Broncos are going to have, they're in the top 10 or top 11, 12, something like that of cap space, 50 plus million in cap space. They still have to carry, what was it, Zach? Something like 32 million of the 85 million of Russ. But they went so cheap everywhere else this year, and they structured their contracts and whatnot to where they're going to have 50 plus million to play with in free agency. That's going to allow them to plug a lot of holes long before they get to the draft. And as it stands, Zach, they have every one of their own draft picks, including 1, 2, and 3, and then a couple extras.
They're going to be able to do whatever they want if they so choose. I don't think I mean, they can sign a couple. I don't think they'll go this route and blow all of their resources on free agency. I think they're going to continue building the team from within. George Payton's track record in the draft has been fantastic. But if you want a T. Higgins, for example, you can at least make him an offer. You can pick up the phone. You can see what his ballpark is. They can be in on any free agent they want, and hopefully those free agents surround Bo Nix.
And by the way, this is one of those possible free agents. Like T. Higgins, I could see doing a lot of damage with a quarterback like Bo Nix in tandem with Cortland Sutton going into a contract year next year. Marvin Mims entering year 3. Maybe Troy Franklin finally figures out how to get on the same page with his college quarterback. I mean, so much Zach was made of how much that connection, the 2 years playing together and being his number one guy at Oregon, would help him hit the ground running. But it's just like, I hate to bring up Bill Belichick again, but I've been watching a lot of like just kind of football stories and stuff, NFL film stuff, and a couple of them focused on Belichick. Well, Parcells, which you can't tell the Parcells story with the Giants without talking about Belichick, and then a separate one about Belichick. And one of the, why did I even bring up Belichick? Now I forgot why I even brought him up again, dude, because then I start thinking, I'm going back, I'm thinking about the things. I forgot why I brought him up again. But the point being here, Higgins, I know. Oh, it almost came back to me, dude. Here I am, like exposed in front of the whole world. What will I ever do? Dang it. I can't get it back, Zach. Either way, T. Higgins.
The only thing with Higgins, who's a fantastic player, is he's going to want like 25, 30 mil a year, one of the highest paid receivers in history. You have to wonder how much he's benefited from playing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the other side. And he's a lot like a rich man's version of Cortland Sutton. I don't want, going back to the Bengals example, I'd rather have a Jamar Chase than a T. Higgins. You need that complementary game breaker underneath that can just turn upfield from 90 yards and score a touchdown. So again, though, you can be in the ballpark. You can make him an offer. You can see what the figures are going to be. Ultimately, though, I think a team like the Raiders or one of those needy, desperate clubs with a lot of money, Jacksonville, they're going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
I remember what it was now. I'm going to slightly redeem myself. He talked about, and remember, this is a guy that's not only coached in the NFL since the 70s, literally, but head coach, how many decades, right? When you factor in all the time he spent in the 90s and then the 21st century. But he said that, look, I don't care who it is. He used it as an absolute and stuck to his guns. Every rookie hits the rookie wall. There's no getting around it. Every rookie will hit that wall. And so this was on the topic of Troy Franklin, right? And I'm going, well, why aren't they connecting? Like, what is it? And I think, Zach, it's a combination of the rookie learning curve, a rookie pressing a little too much, trying to do too much, and then kind of hitting that wall. And I think year two, you could see some really cool stuff from Troy Franklin, because, Zach, you've seen him a few times wide open. Either Bo missed him or whatever the case may be, he drops it, not able to haul it in. I'm stoked for possibly what Troy Franklin could be in the future, but I want to hedge with a bona fide wide receiver too and let him come in and battle with Mims, Vele, anyone else.
It's bizarre because you turn on Oregon highlights the last couple seasons, all you see are long connections between Troy Franklin and Bo Nix. And I posted about this on X earlier that there was a game-clinching play in overtime where Bo and it might have been the fourth quarter, but regardless, it was a game-clinching scenario. And Bo just missed him because Troy Franklin stopped running and he left his feet to try to catch the ball. He didn't run through it. You think that'd be elementary by now, but it's not. He's almost like on the Marvin Mims learning curve, Chad. If you remember the last couple of years,
right,
Mims took a while to become what he even is now. So hopefully Troy Franklin will catch up in 2025.
Hey, and by the way, T. Higgins is only 26, so you're going to get a good 3-4 year window out of him. The Duchess jumping in with another super chat. Thank you, Michaela. She says, what do you guys think about trading for Garrett Wilson? Now, he's 24. So let me double check that. Yeah, he's 24. He'll be turning 25 this summer. So they're kind of in that same age window, him and Higgins, that is. Zach, your thoughts for the Duchess?
100% Michaela, because if you give up, let's say, a first-round pick at most for Garrett Wilson, he is better than any receiver that you would get with that first-round pick in that slot. He's a proven NFL stud, and he's been that way in New York before they got Devontae Adams, even before Aaron Rodgers came to town. Yes, he's still on his rookie contract, I believe, Chad. Yeah. I would 100% look to acquire Garrett Wilson, the perfect complement to Courtland Sutton.
So, kind of interesting. I didn't actually realize this, Zach, but he has notched 1,000 yards receiving all 3 of his years, and that's with some pretty significant quarterback instability. 22, you had Zach Wilson. 23, you had the whole botched Rodgers season, Wilson again. And then this year with a significantly diminished Aaron Rodgers, he's also over 1,000. Plus, he's had to, vie with Devontae Adams being there for a good chunk of his season. So Garrett Wilson, there is some intrigue there, but I don't know. I don't really love the idea of trading. That's my only thing. And not because it's Garrett Wilson, but just like I want to hold on to those picks for the long term, in terms of building that nest.
Well, I mean, the Broncos got JFM for a bag of chips from the Jets, and they're regretting that. So maybe, they can finesse him again for Garrett Wilson. I'd love it, personally.
Because it's looking like they're going to rip it all down, dude. Like it's burn it to the freaking ground and start over. I just feel bad for Jets fans, dude. Like it used to be, what would it be like to be in a fan base that their team just they just can't get it right. But these past 8 seasons, I think all Broncos fans have kind of come crashing back to earth and can have that empathy of feeling for the perpetually cursed fan bases of the NFL. Shadow Warrior, what is good, big dog? He says, arguably our biggest issue is we're predictable now. That's why VJ is saying hard to play in December, a lot to unpack here, adjustments needed. Are we talking about defense specifically, Shadow Warrior? Because I don't know. I don't think VJ has been all that predictable. He throws his blitzes and different things. Maybe his coverages have been a little predictable. I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at, but yeah, that's been one of the themes though, Zach, and then I'll serve it over to you, that we have lamented since Sean Payton came as head coach. So the Payton VJ regime beginning in 2023 is either unsatisfactory adjustments or too slow to adjust. In-game stuff, right? We're talking in-game.
Which has become a predictable trait of his, is that if you counterpunch him, he doesn't have his own counterpunch. And I see what Shadow Warrior is saying here. You mentioned one thing, the blitzing. It's third down. The Broncos are going to blitz you. If it's a clutch moment in the fourth quarter or overtime, they need to get off the field, you know they're not going to do it. They have become predictable in that sense, dropping coverage. But what I can say to his press conferences and his quotes, VJ rarely says anything that isn't coach speak. It's very canned. It's not very insightful. And, you could see why he's no longer a head coach, but hopefully he throws some things at Carson Wentz, who's starting for the Chiefs on Sunday, that he can adjust for, just to get in the playoffs.
Hey, Shadow Warrior, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. We're going to get to the head-to-head here shortly, but talking about cap space and stuff next year, Zach Scott brings up how in our private chat, the Detroit Lions have the fourth most cap space next year, and then his comment is, hey, how's that for building a team? And it's like, whoa, that GM Brad Holmes, right, he arrives in 2021 as the executive vice president of football operations and GM, and that dude has just stacked one win after another. And perhaps on the personnel side, but maybe his biggest win, Zach, was making the right head coaching hire. A lot of people kind of scoffed and laughed at the Dan Campbell hire when it was first made. Like, is he really qualified to be a head coach? And now look at him.
I think the biggest hire he made was Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is the nucleus and the lifeblood of that team, the offensive coordinator. What he's doing, how innovative he is incredible. But the bigger issue here, and what the Broncos can relate to, is that what they do with Jared Goff, the Lions, when they acquired him, they surrounded him with weapons at every level. Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown at receiver. Sam Laporta at tight end. Also, they brought aboard Tim Patrick. That is the blueprint for what the Broncos need to do for Bo Nix in 2025.
Indeed. All right. It is that time of the week, and in fact, I'm a little bit sad about it. It's our last one of the regular season where we do our head-to-head preview, and you guys know how it works. Green signifies a top 10 ranking, red is a bottom 10, and black means it's kind of in the middle. And this is really cool because you have all the information now. You're entering week 18, so all these things. The only kind of bummer about this one is that some of the key players that are going to be in the game for the Chiefs, they didn't really contribute to any of this information we're about to see. But still, let's examine this. 9-7 Broncos, 15-1 Chiefs. Broncos are +6 in the turnover differential. That ties them for 11th. So that's a very efficient number this late into the year. And the Chiefs are also +6. Time of possession, though, the Broncos are a bottom 10 team. The Chiefs are 4th. They hold on to the ball. And look at that, Zach. Less than 3 minutes separates a top 4 team from a bottom 10 team. Offense. Let's start with the Chiefs. They're 13th in yards. They are 11th in points, 16th rushing, 10th in passing. Only 11 picks, 3 fumbles lost is the second fewest. 14 total giveaways are the 6th fewest. 36 sacks. They're killing it on third down, dude. This is what I was talking about earlier. Good luck getting Patrick Mahomes off the freaking field on third down. And if you do, celebrate it. It's a win. Red zone, though, they're kind of middle of the pack. Then you look at the Broncos, and golly, they gone and they've eliminated the red, Zach. This is good. 22nd in yards, 10th. Zach, a Bo Nix rookie Broncos offense going into the season finale as a 10th ranked scoring team. I wouldn't have ever guessed that. Very few people would have guessed that. Rushing 17th, passing 2nd, 12 picks, puts him middle of the pack. Only 7 fumbles lost the whole year. That ties him for the 10th fewest. 19 total giveaways ties him for 15th. And then sacks allowed. Look at that. A lot harder to sack as Bo Nix than Patrick Mahomes, believe it or not. And that's a testament, Zach, to the offensive line. Yes, the Broncos do have a very good offensive line. They should have Pro Bowl representation. But it's also a credit to Bo Nix. He's a tough sack, to quote Sean Payton. Broncos have improved on third down, but still not quite where you want them to be. And this is a top 10 red zone offense, Zach.
Speaking of the points per game, what were they averaging under Hackett, Chad? It was like 15 or 16 points per game, something like that. So they're definitely a touchdown, more than a touchdown better. It's definitely surprising. That's what I wanted to say about the Broncos offense and good red zone as well. I'm impressed that they're north of 60% there. But all the black that you see on Kansas City side is exactly why Mahomes didn't make the Pro Bowl. That's exactly why it lends credence to what I said, that he's a little more than a game manager now. If you would have gone back and look at one of these head-to-heads in 2018, 19, 20, it'd be all green on that side because that offense was just almost unstoppable. The thing is, you might not get him off the field on third down, but you can stifle him up in the red zone, 20th, tied for 20th, 53.9%. And the Broncos defense happens to be pretty well in that red area. So good matchup for Denver.
You want to know something interesting? I mean, you brought up Hackett, but let's compare year 1 Peyton to year 2 Peyton, with the big distinguishing factor being Russell Wilson, Bo Nix. The Russell Wilson Broncos last season finished as the 26th ranked yardage offense. Points, they were 19th. They averaged 21 per game, whereas, as you can see here, the rookie Bo Nix averages 24.2. So that's a little more than a field goal, more points per game, and that makes a difference in this game of inches we call the NFL. The other thing here is, let's see, third down, red zone, that was all middle of the pack. Fumbles lost because of Russ. I mean, there was only 3 or 4 teams worse than the Broncos last year. So, I mean, at just about every, with the exception of interceptions, Bo Nix has thrown more picks this year than Russ did last year. That's just a fact. Zach, the comparison is quite striking. Now, we look at the defense. All right. This Chiefs D is the 4th ranked in yardage, 2nd ranked scoring defense. 4th in rushing, Zach, 14th in passing. Interceptions, though, they're just outside the top 10. Fumble recoveries, kind of middle of the pack. So their 20 total takeaways puts them middle of the pack, and they only have 39 sacks. So they can get after the passer. I mean, again, because they're so well coached, they're just really good situationally. That stuff comes out in the wash. Third down, though, you can move the ball on the Chiefs, but they really stiffen up in the red zone. Situational. All right, then you look at the Broncos defense has fallen after basically since the Cleveland game. It's been 350 plus giveaway type thing, yardage game after another. They've slipped in yardage, but they're still top 5 in points. They're 8th in rushing, but look at how badly their passing defense, Zach, has been just plummeting. It plummeted from a top 10 ranking since Cleveland. All right. So basically, since Riley Moss got hurt, and yeah, he was still getting his game legs beneath him last week. You'll see him be a lot better. Plus, it was Joe Burrow, but 25th in passing, 15 interceptions ties him for the 7th most. 10 fumble recoveries are the 7th most. 25 total takeaways are the 6th most. And they still, Zach, lead the NFL in sacks with 58. It's also a franchise record. They are middle of the pack on third down, and then last, red zone, Zach. It's really hard to score on the Broncos. They're even better in the red zone than the Chiefs.
Yeah, both teams are pretty good, and we have to keep in mind for Kansas City that they're carried on defense by a few players. Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel, Trent McDuffie. Those players, according to Andy Reid, are not going to be playing on Sunday, or if they do, very limited snaps. And so much black there, so much middle of the pack on Kansas City side. It's going to be an exploitable game for the Broncos offense, and it's a game where Bo Nix has to continue his momentum, his Bo-mentum, if you will, from last week and help the defense out. Again, there is no reason why the Broncos shouldn't win this game.
No reason why. It's a Pennywise song. It's a really good one. Okay, let's look at special teams. Net punting, your boy Riley Dixon, 9th. But look at this. Marvin Mims, 1st in the NFL. That's why he got a Pro Bowl. 6th in field goals. I mean, Will Lutz had a Pro Bowl caliber season. If he doesn't get that one block, Zach, in Kansas City, maybe that game-winning clincher like that, and the sizzle and the profile, maybe he ends up being a Pro Bowler. But Meanwhile, the Chiefs, not as dominant in the third phase this season, Zach, as they traditionally are, although there is nothing here that even approaches incompetence. They're 10th in gross punting, middle of the pack on all the other ones, and then 9th in field goal percentage. And then last thing here, Zach, they have committed the 4th fewest penalties. So all those tropes, true as they are, but they're tropes that, the refs might as well have red and gold hats on out there. It kind of holds true. But your thoughts here on special teams and penalties?
Yeah, you're right. Usually under Dave Tobe, the chief special teams coordinator, they're a lot better. It could be a game for Marvin Mims to take over and maybe score and help the team out that way. The percentage for Kansas City, too, I thought it'd be lower because Harrison Butker got hurt. They had to have a backup kicker. You're right, though, about Lutz. He was an alternate, Chad. I think it's 3rd or 4th alternate. And could have made it if not for Chris Boswell. Penalties, the refs are in Kansas City's pocket. Everyone knows that. The Broncos got to get those down, though. 2 weeks in a row, whether it's been ticky-tack or not, you can't allow the officials to decide a game. They got to play a smart, clean brand of football against Kansas City on Sunday.
All right, so just for craps and gigs, let's take a look real quick, and then we'll come back to the chat at some of the individual metrics here. So tackles, the Chiefs are led by Bolton with 106. The Broncos now have 2 guys in triple digits. Brandon Jones still leading the way. Cody Barton, kind of cool, as kind of hot and cold, up and down as Barton's first year in Denver has been. I like that he was able to get to triple digit tackles. Good for him. And Moss would be there too if he doesn't get hurt. They would have 3 guys over 100 tackles. All right, sacks. Bonito, 11.5. Cooper, 9.5. Allen, 8.5. Karlaftis with 8 leading the Chiefs. All right, so that's a big difference. Okay, interceptions, yes, or 10 leading them all with 4 points. Don't really care. Receiving yards. Broncos leader is Sutton with 983. Chiefs leader is Kelsey with 823. So that kind of, Zach, is emblematic. I want to serve this over to you. You mentioned earlier that it's just a different animal without Tyreek Hill there, right? That passing offense of the Chiefs, as good as Mahomes is, when your tight end is leading your team in receiving yardage, it's kind of emblematic to how I think the passing game is shaken out.
Yeah, and you have DeAndre Hopkins, a washed version of him who they acquired midseason. That's their 3rd leading receiver, and 2nd being Xavier Worthy, the rookie there. But look at the rushing yards leaders. You have Kareem Hunt, who came on late, 728. Pacheco's at 310, and he missed a chunk of the season with a broken fibula, I think it was. He's not far off from the Broncos' leading rusher. I put that in quotes, Javonte Williams. It shows a discrepancy there. One team is really good at running the ball, and the other team, not so much.
That's pretty brutal. Look at that, dude. Your leading rusher hasn't even hit 500, and he hasn't been hurt. That's shame on Sean Payton on one hand. It's like he can't get the right running back combination going. He goes away from the hot hand. He relies too much, I think, Zach, on the running back by committee, etc. But it's time to really start letting McLaughlin kind of carry the load. I think you ride him till he breaks down, and then you upgrade the shazam out of that position in the offseason. But look at this. Mahomes, he's going to finish under 4,000 yards passing since he's not playing. This is like the old NFL in a 16-game season. That's still a really good season. I mean, he's basically right under 4,000. And Nick's, that would have been a really good season too for a rookie in his first year in a 16-game campaign. But I think he'll end up finishing somewhere around 3,700, 3,750 best case. And then touchdowns, he's sitting at, he's 26. I want to see him get to 30. I'd love to see him get to 30 and just have a huge season finale and just truck the backups of the Chiefs and flex and at least give the O'Roy voters one last thing to think about.
Yeah, 3,600 yards for Bo Nix is about what we projected before the season. I think he has 30 total touchdowns on the year as well. It's a really good rookie season, and that's the takeaway here. Win or lose on Sunday, the Broncos have found their franchise quarterback.
No doubt. I recall getting the questions when Bo was announced as the starter in the chat, great supers and stuff, saying, hey, give us your statistical prediction for him. And I said it was going to be low 3,000s, like 32 to 35. in yardage, and that, if you could get him somewhere between 20 and 25 passing scores year one, that would be phenomenal. He's exceeded in the final analysis, Zach. He will have exceeded both those metrics. Plus, he chipped in another 5 touchdowns with his legs and receiving ability. I mean, he didn't just catch a Philly special wide open. Like, he had to go up and moss a dude, come down, make sure he's like leaning over the plane, like it was a very athletic play.
And I was looking up Russell Wilson's stats from last season. And I know he missed a couple games. He was benched. He had 3,070 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 picks. So again, Bo Nix is progressing a little more ahead of schedule than some of us thought. A lot of people thought. And again, that's the biggest takeaway here is they have their guy.
How many did we say? Let's see, team sacks real quick. So the Broncos, they have team sacks 58, right? Wasn't that what we said? Which is a franchise record. Take a wild guess. This surprised me, Zach, at the number of sacks Vance Joseph's defense got last year.
35.
52.
Oh, wow.
What?
I didn't expect that.
This makes me wonder. Mr. Producer, could you Google that? Because, we unfortunately now have reason to doubt these PDFs we get. I just want verification on that, because that's how many sacks the world champion Broncos had in 2015 with Vaughn and with Ware and Derek Wolfe and Malik. Like 52. No one even got to double digits last year. I mean, Jonathan Cooper. Huh?
Sorry, this website I pulled up says 42, which sounds more
okay.
More accurate.
So their little sheet is wrong. Okay. By the way, that was, the same things we complained about. I don't want to actually talk about it anymore because they're really cool to send it to us in the first place. But a lot of anomalies, let's put it that way, in the game capsules in the end of season. This was their end of season season in review capsules, Zach, that I was referencing, 52. So it was 42. Okay, copy that. Makes sense. All right, back to the chat, guys. We're about out of time. So last couple of things. I disagree, Joe Allen. Moss was burned left and right against Cincy. Maybe he's not as good as he's been advertised. Nah, dude. He was not perfect his first 12 starts of this season. Gave up a couple of touchdowns, gave up a play here and there. But he was phenomenal. And Zach, he was getting his game legs beneath him. And coming off a 4-game absence and going against Joe frickin' Burrow and going against the Chases and the Higgins. And brutal first game back. I don't care if your name's Surtain or if it's Moss.
And he also seemed to aggravate that injury. Was I the only one who noticed him like limping? I think it was early in the first quarter, and he stuck it out. But you can tell that that knee was still bothering him. And let's not disparage T. Higgins, who was his man as well in coverage. T. Higgins is a really freaking good receiver. He was left one-on-one a lot with him, and that's a tough assignment for any cornerback. He's still going to have his rookie moments, but overall, he's been fantastic this season.
Nick Hale, our friend, saying stoked to see the Broncos destroy the Chiefs in the old school unis and get into the playoffs. Let's go. Indeed. They're closing it out with the classic 78 throwbacks. That's going to be dope, Zach. And it's going to look like, a 1987 Broncos versus Chiefs kind of game. It's how it'll look.
Time to make those uniforms the permanent ones full-time, the best in the NFL as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I think we've kind of gotten everybody. We've hit all the main topics. We got a few messages for you guys before we dip, so don't leave quite yet.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please give us a follow on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad's at Chad and Jensen. I'm at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get yourself some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Insta at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very, very, very important that you subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
By the way, guys, we need you following on Instagram. I mean, I got to guess that of the 272 people who are live with us right this moment, not to mention the many thousands who will end up watching and listening to this episode, that a good at least 60% of you have an Instagram account. So please, I made it easy on you too. Go follow the MHH Instagram. I just dropped the link in the chat because we are putting a lot of content out there and we have big plans for the page and for the account. So we need your follows over there and we appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be doing some fun raffles. Plus, I noticed that we hit the stars goal on Facebook. So we're going to have a Facebook jersey to raffle. We'll either do it on the gut reaction to Broncos Chiefs or possibly we'll wait till Monday. Either way, look forward to that. It's going to be dope. A mile high salute and a special shout out to all the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight, starting with the Duchess. For some reason, there he is. Duchess. We got the Papa Bear, David McElrath, Naj, Eric Flynn, Max Rio, Chris Chances, Jason Perrin, Taylor Christensen, multiple supers, George Fox. By the way, Michaela, multiple supers, Shadow Warrior, much love and respect. Have a great rest of your week, everybody, and go Broncos, because next time you see Zach and myself on camera, we're going to know, did the team finally get this monkey off its back?
Have a great start to your weekend. We'll see you Sunday for the gut reaction. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.